You ever notice how a deck is the only part of a house that people think is a weekend project, Alex? It's funny. You wouldn't try to frame a second story on a Saturday, but people look at a pile of pressure treated lumber and think, yeah, I can have a barbecue on this by Sunday afternoon.
Guilty as charged. I mean, it looks so simple in the time-lapse videos. Dig a hole, pour some gray stuff, slap some boards down, and boom, you're flipping burgers. Why do you look like you're mourning a pet just thinking about it?
Because I've seen what happens when the gray stuff isn't deep enough. I remember my first solo deck build, must have been 20 years ago. I was so worried about the boards looking pretty that I didn't give the footings the respect they deserved. Come the first deep freeze, that deck started heaving like a ship in a gale. One corner rose 4 inches while the other stayed put. It looked like a funhouse floor.
So we're not just talking about wood and nails today. We're talking about the ghost of decks past. Since I've got the itch to actually upgrade the backyard this year, let's get into the weeds, or the dirt. Where does a sane person actually start?
Honestly, you start with a stack of paper and a very boring book, specifically the local code book. Most folks want to jump to the fun part, picking out the composite colors or the railing style. But if your ledger board isn't flashed right, or your joist spacing is too wide for your material, you're just building a very expensive pile of future firewood.
Okay, let's talk about that ledger board. That's the big piece of wood that attaches the deck to the house, right? That always seemed like the scariest part to me. I don't exactly love the idea of drilling massive holes into the side of my home.
It should be a little scary. It's the handshake between your house and your deck. If that handshake is weak, the whole party ends up in the dirt. The biggest thing people miss isn't the bolts, it's the flashing. Water is a patient hunter, Alex. If you don't tuck that metal or vinyl drip edge behind your house siding and over that ledger, the water's going to seep in, rot your rim joist, and eventually the deck just peels off like a scab.
Peels off like a scab. You really have a way with words, Tiger. So if I'm too chicken to drill into my house, I should probably look at a freestanding deck, right?
Exactly, and that's a valid move. You just add one more row of posts and beams near the house so the deck stands on its own 4 feet. It costs a bit more in lumber and digging, but it sleeps better at night if you're worried about your home's integrity.
Let's talk about those feet, the footings. Looking at some of Andrew Throne's stuff, he talks a lot about never rot methods. What's the secret sauce for making sure those posts don't just melt into the ground after 5 years?
Well, the old school way was to just bury the post in concrete. But wood, even the treated stuff, hates living in a damp concrete sleeve. It's like wearing wet socks for a decade. Eventually, you're going down. The pro move now is to pour your concrete pier, let it cure, and then use a galvanized metal standoff base. It keeps the bottom of the wood an inch off the concrete so water can't pool under it.
So you're basically giving the deck some high heels?
Exactly. High heels for the patio, keeps the toes dry.
Okay, we've got legs, we've got a ledger. Now for the part everyone argues about at the hardware store, the top. I look at the price of Trex or advanced PVC and my wallet starts crying. But then I look at wood and I think about the 3 weekends a year I'll spend staining it. How do you weigh that up?
It's a classic battle of now money versus later time. If you go with a premium composite or PVC, something like TimberTech, you're paying a massive premium up front. It's like buying a car that never needs an oil change.
But it still gets hot, right? I've heard you can fry an egg on some of those dark composite boards in July.
You can do more than fry an egg. You can brand your own feet if you aren't careful. That's why the newer PVC stuff is gaining ground. It stays a bit cooler. But here's the trade-off. Composite boards aren't structural. They're floppy. If you use wood, you can sometimes get away with joists being 16 inches apart. With most composites, 12 inches is safer to keep it from feeling like you're walking on a trampoline.
See? This is why I have you around. I would have just slapped them down on the old frame and wondered why my deck felt like a bouncy castle. Speaking of frames, I saw a video about a 10x faster railing installation. Why is everyone so obsessed with railing speed? Is it really that hard?
Railings are the fine furniture part of a deck. You're doing 100 of the same repetitive cuts and screws. It's the part of the project where your soul starts to leave your body around baluster number 64. Those new systems, the ones where the balusters click into a pre-slotted rail, they're a godsend. They take the math out of the spacing. Because let me tell you, if your spacing is off by 1/8 of an inch, by the time you reach the end of a 20-foot run, it'll look like the railing is drunk.
Drunk railing. I think I saw that at my last Airbnb. Now, what about the stairs? I saw a never rot method for stairs too. It seems like the stairs are always the first thing to fall apart.
They are, because you're cutting into the wood to make the teeth for the steps, the stringers. Every cut is an opening for water to get into the heart of the wood. The trick involves using joist tape. It's like a heavy-duty butyl rubber tape, and you run it over the top of every stringer and every joist before the decking goes down. It creates a little raincoat for the wood.
It sounds like 90% of deck building is just outsmarting rain.
You nailed it. Gravity is easy to understand, rust we can fight, but water is the one that'll get you, even when it comes to the fasteners. If you're using those hidden fastener systems where the screws go into the side of the board, they look beautiful, but you better make sure you have the right tool. Doing that with a standard drill by hand, you'll have the forearms of a blacksmith and the patience of a saint by the time you're done.
So, if I'm staring at my backyard this weekend and I've got my shovel and my dreams, what's the one thing you want me to remember when I'm halfway through a hole that's hitting solid clay?
Don't rush the dirt. Everyone wants to see the wood, Alex, but the soul of the deck is in the part you'll never see once the grass grows back. Spend the extra hour making sure those footings are square and level. Because if the foundation is a mess, no amount of expensive composite or fancy railings will ever make that deck feel right under your feet.
Solid advice, even if it means I won't be grilling by Sunday.
Sunday? Alex, if you're grilling by next Sunday, I'll come over and flip the burgers myself.
Deal. See you in the dirt, Tiger.